And today's story that I want to share with you is truly one that I've been thinking about for a while, and I think it's a good example of exercising frugality. When I was younger, when I was growing up, my parents subscribed to the idea that you didn't want to give a child a smartphone or related device until they said that they were mature enough to deal with it. They didn't subscribe to, it's a particular age when the child is ready. It was a maturity level. Now, my brother Jordan really wanted an iPod Touch. Back in the early days with the first 2 or 3 versions of the iPhone, there was a sister device that was released. It was basically the exact same thing, but without the cellular cell phone component, like a small iPad more or less, if you don't remember them. So he really wanted one because he knew that he wasn't old enough for a phone, but it was still a fun little electronic device with a touch screen. I was a little less enthusiastic about them. I didn't really want one, but my parents thought that I was the one who hit the maturity level for these devices the most, and they thought it would be kind of funny for my birthday to give me an iPod Touch. I think it was a second generation. This was early enough that the iPod didn't even have a camera. At least I don't think it did. As a result of me having one, Jordan very quickly saved up the money to go buy an iPod Touch of his own, and with my parents' blessing, indeed, within a few weeks, he got one. And I didn't realize how useful a almost smartphone device could be, and I naturally carried it with me everywhere. And I didn't get rid of it until I got the first iPod Touch with a front-facing and a back-facing camera. I remember that was quite the leap when Apple announced that, and I got that iPod, that second one, right before a vacation, and I took just hundreds of photos. So I had this second smartphone-like device that was not a phone all the way through until 2 to 3 years into my college career. And you might ask, well, how did you manage to go about a social life without a phone? Well, most of the friends that I had in college liked to text or use group chats or Facebook Messenger, and I could do that. I could engage with that type of communication with an iPod Touch. I just couldn't do the phone calls. Well, unless I was around Wi-Fi. There was an app, a text-free app, and I could, with a number that was assigned to my device, text anytime I was on Wi-Fi, and I could also make phone calls. The phone calls were limited, but the texts were free. And that's how I maintained communication for the front half of my college career. The one bit of utility that I didn't have without the cellular phone was naturally if my car broke down, calling for help. But I, for the most part, was around Wi-Fi. I had good Wi-Fi at my parents' house where I lived at the time, and K-State had free Wi-Fi basically everywhere on campus. So for 90% of the time that I could possibly be wanting to be in digital communication with someone, I could. And I didn't need a phone. And the question I want to ask you is, was it frugal for me to just continue using the iPod Touch instead of upgrading to an iPhone? I already had the iPod Touch device. It was a gift. A phone would have been an expense, and I would have ended up having to pay for the cellular bill, the cell phone bill. During this season of life, I was way more concerned with scraping together my pennies that I was earning working part-time in order to cover my tuition. And I didn't see a cell phone bill as a genuine need.